The commissioners were put in place under his government, and he is trying to strike down the law itself that establishes the Integrity Commission. In other words, he is trying to use the courts of Jamaica to undermine the anti-corruption framework of Jamaica, including the offense of illicit enrichment, for which he is being investigated. As my brethren Damon Crawford would say, what can go so? After 9 years of Labour Party rule, the people of Jamaica are fed up. They are disgusted with the government. They are disgusted with leadership which can't prove itself to be worthy of our trust and confidence. We have a Prime Minister whose own personal finances and the declarations he has filed cannot be certified by the country's Integrity Commission. It's a shame and disgrace on Jamaica to have a leader in government in that situation. He's even taking the Integrity Commission to court to strike down the very law that was passed under his government, even though it's we designed it and we brought it to Parliament originally. But it was passed by him and his government.
Now, my friends, this comment by that Englishman who prims up in the Parliament illegally, Mark Golding, that comment was made on the 5th of January 2025. And that was 2 days before the hearing that was set on the 7th of January into the matter. The court granted wholeness leave for judicial review and set January 7th for the hearing and when the court would decide the date of the trial. And he was at a political meeting 2 days before and made the statement that he made. The question I would like to ask, why has he not been hauled before the court for contempt? We have rules in this country that you are not supposed to be discussing a matter that is already before the court. He is an officer of the court. And he will argue, well, he wasn't discussing it. Well, he was discussing whether or not it was appropriate for the Prime Minister to take the matter to court. The judge said it was. The law said he can. So what is the meaning of this comment? 2 days before the matter was due to be heard in the Supreme Court by a man who is supposed to be the officer of the court. What was he trying to do? Was he trying to influence the outcome? Is that what he was trying to do? Was he trying to put pressure on the court, on the judges? Was that what he was trying to do? Well, I am going to be reading something for you shortly about something called sub judice. And I'm also going to read another article, and I think you'll find both quite interesting. In the meanwhile, let me welcome you to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here with me for the first time, welcome, welcome. Please remember to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, share, and feel free to leave your comments in the comments section. To my subscribers, welcome back. Always lovely to have you. You know the ropes. Please go ahead from now on. Give the video a thumbs up because you know when you come to 411, you're going to get some quality stuff, right? So please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Share and then return so that we can get on with it. Yes, and of course, you know you're quite welcome to leave your comments in the comments section because you've been doing so from day one, most of you. Wonderful. So now that you're back with me, let's get down to business. And of course, just in case you think my mother never grew me good, I thank you for liking and sharing and leaving your comments. All right, great. So Mark Golding had a lot to say 2 days before the hearing, right? Talking about wholeness trying to undermine the Integrity Commission. Is that really what it is? Let me read something that the very law that he said that he designed and brought to Parliament originally, what that law said are the rights of individuals who are subjected to its terms. The parliamentarians, the civil servants, and those who work in government bodies, as well as the parish council, right? That law gave them certain rights. Let me read what the law says are the rights of those persons under the Integrity Commission Act 2017. What you're looking at here is Section 6(3)(a) of the Integrity Commission Act. And what it says, in the exercise of its powers and performance of its functions under this act, the commission, and the commission, by the way, is the commissioners, right? All 5 of them. So the commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority other than the court by way of judicial review. B, shall act independently, impartially, fairly, and in the public interest, and shall have the power to do all such things as it considers necessary or expedient for the purpose of carrying out its functions. So, they are not subject to the control or direction of any person or any other authority other than the court by way of judicial review. That is what gives all of the persons who are required by law to submit a statutory declaration to the Integrity Commission. It gives them the power to ask the court to make a decision as to whether or not the decision that they make, that is the Integrity Commission, was fair, the process by which they arrive at the decision was fair, and whether or not the commission carried out its lawful duty as provided by the law itself. In other words, them can't just go there and make up things and go on like say them have power outside of the law. They do not. All the powers that they have because Parliament wrote a law giving them that power, and they are not supposed to act outside of that power. And if they do, if the declarant who is adversely affected by any decision that they make believes that they were acting outside of their powers, they are entitled to go to the Supreme Court and apply for judicial review. And if the court grants the judicial review, then they are entitled to a hearing and a trial. So when Mark Golding is going to come and say that the Prime Minister is trying to undermine the Integrity Commission by asking for a judicial review, that man must have been under something. I don't know if he was on medication, because we don't feel so that man is fully all there, you know. Something wrong with him. His memory gone too. Yes, every now and then in memory take a little walk and he remember things, especially things that he has said and things that he has done. Evidently, he forgot that this was in the law that he designed. He like to take credit. But of course, we are not of the opinion that he forgot anything. He knew exactly what it is that he was doing, and he knew exactly why he was doing it. So, why was he on the stage telling the comrades that Andrew Holness is trying to undermine the Integrity Commission? In other words, he's accusing the Prime Minister of wrongdoing when the law allows him to seek judicial review if he feels that his rights were being pillared by the Integrity Commission and the decision that they made. That is what the judicial review is about. It's not an appeal, it's a request of the court to look into the decision that a public body made and make a ruling as to whether it is legal or fair. And the law gives him that right, as well as everybody else, including Mark Golding himself, including Ian Hales, including Andrew Wheatley, and others, including you and including me, because we may get entangled with a government department who made an unjust decision. We may feel we can also take the matter to the courts and request a judicial review to have the decision that the government department made ruled unlawful, if it was, or unfair, as the case may be. So this is a massive, massive deceit. Well, yes, assuming that he was in his right mind. Of course, if he was not in his right mind, then, well, what can we say? He ought not to be in that position in the first place if he is a man of unsound mind. Be that as it may, the words are sufficiently deceptive, because what they seek to do is to create in the minds of those comrades and those who would have been hearing the broadcast, because I'm sure he was hoping that others would hear it, and I'm sure he was hoping that the media would carry it, to let them believe that the Prime Minister was doing something wrong when he wasn't. He is a citizen of this country, entitled to be treated fairly under the law like everybody else. So I am now going to read for you something called sub judice. And I am not a lawyer. Anybody who is a lawyer who might be listening, you may be able to comment and tell me whether this qualifies what he said on the 5th of January 2025 as being against the rule of sub judice, if that's the way you lawyer folk put it. So sub judice is a rule which not only governs the parliamentarians, which state basically that they should not, if a matter is before the court, you don't want your parliamentarians to be there trying to adjust the laws and discussing the merit of the case. They have privilege. You can't do them. Nothing wants them to do anything in Parliament. Only they can punish them one another. So you don't want a situation like that. So they have rules which prevent them from discussing the matter while the thing is before the court. But it is not only the parliamentarians and the cabinet that is subject to the rule of sub judice, but also the media. And if the media is subjected to the rules of sub judice, which is a private group of people, it means that it must apply to you and me too. Of course, we do take liberties because, we little small fry, nobody not pay we no mind, so we can get away with it. So let me read what the sub judice rule is. It says, the sub judice rule is a law that prevents the media from discussing matters that are under consideration by the court. The term sub judice is Latin for under judgment. The sub judice rule is a significant part of contempt of court law in common law jurisdictions, which we are one of those. It's used to prevent, and I'm quoting now, trial by media by prohibiting the publication of matters that could prejudice a fair trial. You see that? Let me read that part again. The sub judice rule is a significant part of contempt of court law in common law jurisdictions, such as we, England, even the United States, right? Although them kind of shift up for them rule somewhat. It's used to prevent trial by media by prohibiting the publication of matters that could prejudice a fair trial. Of course, that don't apply in the United States. Them can sit down and discuss evidence all when them hear said this and that, because them claim said them a freedom of speech. But we out here, we believe that people should have a fair trial, so we try our best not to discuss the merits of the case. Now, what the media is allowed to do, though, is to report on the case. But they have to report what is said in court. If they're there, they have to report what is said in court, right? Without much, I don't think they can even put their opinion on it. So they're just reporting what is said, just as a court reporter would take down what is being said in the court, right? Yes, they are allowed to do that. But to sit down and talk about this, about the case, and that about the case, that is not allowed under our jurisdiction. So when Mark Golding is at this political meeting talking about Andrew Holness, the appropriateness of Andrew Holness taking the matter for judicial review, not trying to explain to people that, he has a right to do so. He didn't even put in that. Right? 2 days before the hearing, what was his objective for doing that? Is it that he believed that the court was going to make a ruling on that date, which may, based upon his own thinking, rule in favor of Andrew Holness, and now his statutory declaration would be eventually certified based upon the decision of the court? Is that what he thought was going to happen? That's why he came out and started to run his mouth? This is an undermining of our court system. If the judges had gone and made some decision based upon what he said, the comrades would now probably start to accuse the court of being corrupt, because Andrew do something wrong or try to undermine the Integrity Commission, and see the court, they're going to agree with them, so the court must be corrupt, and the court must be... I wonder if you understand what it is that I'm explaining to you. When I tell you that this man, we need to get this man out of our politics, you understand the reason why now. And he does these things. Why? Because he is a privileged son, according to him, of the soil. I don't know which soil, but himself is a privileged son, right? And him is a white man and an Englishman with a British passport. So, the little house slave, them afraid of him. I don't know why. Because even if he was a duppy, then the people duppy now no power. So, he said what he said, and nobody noticed that he ought not to have gone and said what he said. And look at the timing. And you want to believe that that is a coincidence? No way. And let me remind you, this is not the first time he has done the very same thing, undermining our institutions, our constitutional institutions, right? You recall that in the local government election in 2024, after the electoral office did the count and the preliminary count, they came to the conclusion that the JLP won 7 seats, the PNP won 5 seats, there was a tie, and the PNP won the mayoral office of Portmore Municipal City. Not the same as the other municipal corporations, which has to do with the parishes. Portmore is not a parish, right? Eventually, we may end up with more towns that are also given a municipal city status. But so far, Portmore is the only one. So it stands alone by itself. After they made that count and published the result, which is what it has been doing from day one, whenever it is counting from Wapikil Phillip, from we had local government, and I do believe it's from way back when. I think it's almost the same time as the electoral process for Parliament, we had the local government elections. And when I say local government elections, I'm speaking about elections where the parties, political parties, are involved. Because local government be going on from Wapikil Phillip in Jamaica You just never had any political parties. You were just electing people to sit in the council, and it had various names, including parochial board at one time. Nowadays, it's being called municipal corporation. Okay, great. So that is how they have been doing the count. The party with the greatest number of seats, they win the council. They have the mayor and the deputy mayor. If there is a tie, then the party with the greatest number of votes, they win the mayorship, and the other party gets the deputy mayor. That's what they have been doing for years, until this little you know what, scum of the earth, let me put it that way. Let's go give him. He's a scum of the earth that Peter Bunting put upon the people of this country. Are worse scum than him. He lost the election, realized that his position was in serious trouble, or so he thought, and then decided to tell the Jamaican people that the PNP won, flinging the whole damn society in confusion. The electoral office put out the numbers, and him say him win, because him have 7 mayor. The JLP had 7 mayor. Them account the Portmore mayor, and say them have 7 mayors, I don't know when in Jamaica we have been considering who won an election based upon how many mayors. Maybe that is proof that him don't belong here. Maybe that is proof that him just landed in Jamaica the other day from England or somewhere else. That him don't know nothing about our electoral system, that he thought that it is a greater number of mayor that determines who win the local government election. Him said the PNP had 7, the JLP had 7, and since they had the greater number of people voting for them, that means to say them win. And no matter how the electoral office come out and tell them say nothing go so, that was what them up and down telling the people, and flung the whole society into confusion. Especially the comrades, because them know say they don't win nothing. And let me tell you something. It's long time these white people have been studying us as black people. From that fellow Livingston went down in Africa and ingratiated himself with one of the tribes. They were studying us and studying our weakness. And because our systems are systems based on nature, which is fact and true, we have a weakness. Our brain is not designed to handle lies. And the instant we either believe the lie or people start to tell us lies, and we take that lie into our brain, we start to have problems. That is the weakness. And every white person know our weakness. So when he did what he did, he knew what he was doing. Manipulated the people for his own selfish advantage. And they will do it again. You make that general election call and them lose, and see what them do. Right? So it's not the first time that man has attempted to undermine our institutions. The man is an enemy of the state. The man is an enemy of the state called Jamaica. You see any Jamaican that do not like that? Any Jamaican at all? No. He is a white man from a foreign country. And that is why he behaves the way he behaves, because he don't give a damn about people like us. But him know what him want. He want the power, and him know why him want the power. Because him come to scrape and rape the country like his forebears. Now, I am going to read something else to you, just to make sure that we understand what it is the rules are These are conventions now that Jamaica has signed on to. And every person who is in public office, especially them who in our parliament, is obliged to abide by these rules. Let me read them now. So I'm reading now from the United Nations Human Rights, right? It says basic principles on the independence of the judiciary, and this and all of what I'm going to read now was adopted by the member countries, and that would also include Jamaica. So it was adopted the 6th of September 1985 by the 7th United Nations Congress on the Prevention of Crime and the Treatment of Offenders, held at Milan from the 26th of August to the 6th of September 1985, and endorsed by General Assembly Resolutions 4030 of the 29th of November 1985 and 146 of the 13th of December 1985. And it says, whereas in the Charter of the United Nations, the peoples of the world affirm, inter alia, among other things, their determination to establish conditions under which justice can be maintained to achieve international cooperation in promoting and encouraging respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms without any discrimination. Whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights enshrines, in particular, the principles of equality before the law, of the presumption of innocence, and of the right to a fair and public hearing by a competent, independent, and impartial tribunal established by law. A court them I talk about. So what they're saying is that all the countries of the world signed on to this protocol, right, of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What is it about? Principles of equality before the law, of the presumption of innocence, and of the right to a fair and public hearing by a competent, independent, and impartial tribunal established by law. That is why our courts are public places. When you have cases, except for certain, like things to do with family matters and children and so on, those things are not public. But when it comes to charging a man for serious crime, that must be public. People must go there and see justice at work. Otherwise, what you will have are secret trials. They call them star chamber in those days, and anything goes, right? And therefore, this is what everybody decided to sign on to. So apparently, the Englishman don't believe in these things. He does not believe in the presumption of innocence. He does not believe that, or maybe he does not believe it for Andrew Holness, that he should have a fair trial by a competent court which is independent and impartial. He wants to what? Influence the outcome of the hearing. Don't believe in those things. But he wants to turn Prime Minister. He believes it's in plantation this. Remember, your ancestors are you, some independent people fly from outer space. It's your ancestors who gave birth to your parents, and then they came down to you, and you see them on a reborn each time. The same ancestor is being reborn each time. So the whole slave owning parents in him blood, and I stand up in him today. And I'm thinking still up on the plantation during the days of slavery. Let me continue to read. So those are the things that we signed on to, and we also signed on to this as well. Whereas the international covenants on economic, social, and cultural rights and on civil and political rights both guarantee the exercise of those rights, and in addition, the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights further guarantees the right to be tried without undue delay. We're going to be reading at some point why it was that the matter for Andrew Holness to be heard at trial is all the way in October. We'll read about that shortly to see whether or not it's a violation of this matter to be tried without undue delay. We'll check that out, all right? Let's move on. Whereas frequently there still exists a gap between the vision underlying those principles and the actual situation. Whereas the organization and administration of justice in every country should be inspired by those principles, and efforts should be undertaken to translate them fully into reality. In other words, this is a vision that we have, this is what we want to accomplish, and now it's a matter of implementing. That's all it's saying there. And I'm not going to continue because a whole heap of whereas until we get to the juice and the meat of the matter. I'm going to read this last one. And it says, whereas rules concerning the exercise of judicial office should aim at enabling judges to act in accordance with those principles, meaning that they must give the people a fair trial, a fair hearing. They are innocent until proven otherwise. And also that the trial should not be subjected to undue delay, among other things. So now we come to the meat of the matter. Independence of the judiciary. Uno send this go give that Englishman, right? Because we not joke with him. The independence of the judiciary shall be guaranteed by the state and enshrined in the Constitution or the law of the country. You hear that? The independence of the judiciary, it should be guaranteed by the state and in our Constitution, enshrined, meaning that you can't just get up and change it as you please. You have to then either get 2/3 majority. I do believe in our case, you have to go to the people in a referendum. Yes, to change our judiciary. I do believe. I think it's deeply entrenched. It goes on to say, it is the duty of all governmental and other institutions to respect and observe the independence of the judiciary. Who it is that them say? The duty of all governmental and other institutions. That would include the police, the parliament. So when the parliament pass a law and it is struck down by the courts, they, according to this convention, must respect and observe the independence of the judiciary. In other words, don't go against the judiciary because it just going to cause more problem. Right? That Englishman this is why I tell you, he was undermining our judicial system against the United Nations Human Rights Convention by using his position to go out there and make a pronouncement, giving the impression to the comrades and others that Andrew Holness was doing something wrong when he asked for a judicial review, which was granted. Now that it was granted, where is the wrongdoing in what it was that he did? For you now to come talk about, say, him undermine the Integrity Commission and the Integrity Body. Him all rank for going to one meeting, and I'm going to show you shortly too. In front of the Prime Minister, I talk about we must support the Integrity Commission. Who doesn't support the Integrity Commission? What is his interest in this matter? What is Mark Golding's interest in this matter that he's out there telling the I don't know if it's the Governor General him I talk to, that he must keep Seymour Panton and the others. Don't let them go because the time going up in next month. They must stay, and then he's out there batting for them now. Right? What it is, Seymour Panton is the only one with integrity? Other people not there? Or is it a reason why I want Seymour Panton to be there? Let me continue. At number 2, the judiciary shall decide matters before them impartially on the basis of facts and in accordance with the law, without any restrictions, improper influences, inducements, pressures, threats, or interferences, whether direct or indirect, from any quarter or for any reason. What that Englishman was doing on the 5th of January 2025 was seeking to pressure the court, right? Impose an improper influence on the court, interfere with the court, whether directly or indirectly, because he wants the court to know that he's out there and he's in disagreement with what Andrew Holness is doing. He thinks it is an undermining of the Integrity Commission, and he wants the court to rule in a certain way. What other reason could he possibly have for saying what he said when he said it? What? At number 3, it states, the judiciary shall have jurisdiction over all issues of a judicial nature and shall have exclusive authority to decide whether an issue submitted for its decision is within its competence as defined by law. So nobody should have the power other than the court to determine whether a matter that is brought before them is within their jurisdiction. Them alone for make that decision, not the parliament. You follow? Yes. At 4 it says, there shall not be any inappropriate or unwarranted interference with the judicial process, nor shall judicial decisions by the courts be subject to revision, meaning to say, Parliament must not meddle in the judicial system. If a court makes a decision, only a superior court can overturn that decision. Nobody outside of the court system, and certainly not a court below. You follow? Yes. It goes on to say, this principle is without prejudice to judicial review or to mitigation or commutation by competent authorities of sentences imposed by the judiciary in accordance with the law. That mitigation or commutation of competent authorities of sentences imposed by the judiciary, I would think that that is like the Governor General. The Governor General has a power to pardon a person who has been convicted under the law. That would be an example. At 5, everyone shall have the right to be tried by ordinary courts or tribunals using established legal procedures, like the civil procedure rules that the Supreme Court uses, and I think the Court of Appeal. Tribunals that do not use the duly established procedures of the legal process shall not be created to displace the jurisdiction belonging to the ordinary courts or judicial tribunals. I think what this is saying, whatever tribunal you're going to set up must follow the rules that were established for the ordinary courts, which would then be the parish court, or what used to be called the resident magistrates court, the Supreme Court, and the Court of Appeal for us here. Good. Now it says at 6, the principle of the independence of the judiciary entitles and requires the judiciary to ensure that judicial proceedings are conducted fairly and that the rights of the parties are respected. So when Margolin is out there on the political platform making his irresponsible statement, hoping that the judges will hear what his views are on the matter, that he disapproves of what Holness is doing, and therefore I suppose him expect them to make a decision according to what he, Bakra, says. It is not for the judge to listen to that Bakra. It is for them to ensure that they lock off them ears and focus on what is before them, to ensure that their proceedings conducted fairly and that the rights of Holness is respected and protected. That are for them duty. Whatever they hear, whatever is brought to their attention, as people probably would do when they go about them business, people might say things to them, they have to close up them ears and focus. That's basically what this is saying. The responsibility for the judicial proceedings rests squarely with the judges. You follow? Yes. And at number 7, it says, it is the duty of each member state, of which Jamaica is one such, it is the duty of each member state to provide adequate resources to enable the judiciary to properly perform its functions. I think when you go down to the Supreme Court and see how down they're nice and pretty and beautiful, and the judges them look like they're comfortable, and then look like they're getting a comfortable pay too, I think that we have not been doing such a bad job. As for the parish courts, I haven't been there in quite a while, but they need to do something. Well, I mean, the amount of people that turn up a daytime, especially for the traffic in some of the rural areas, not so hot. But otherwise, I don't think they're doing such a bad job with the two superior courts, the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal. So that is that for the United Nations Human Rights Conventions. This little lawless Boto, you see, I don't want to class him too bad, I don't want to class him too bad because he belongs to another race. You understand? But this man, this Englishman, that man has no respect for anything. And he believes that what he wants is what he should get. Him behaving like him is a backcrop on a plantation.
Together. May God bless the Integrity Commission that leads the fight against corruption in the land. Because corruption is a scourge against the will of God. And the institutions on earth that fight against corruption deserve our full support.
I wonder if this Englishman would consider slavery corruption. Apparently not. Because, believe it or not, the Bible sanctions slavery. So I don't know what is he talking about. Goes to show, doesn't it, what he knows. So his comments at that political meeting in East Rural St. Andrew on the 5th of January 2025, that is corruption. That is you trying to interfere with the independence of the judiciary. What we have is what is known in this country and what we practice in this idiotic white man system is called a separation of powers. You have the parliament, you have the cabinet, separate power. You have the judiciary, separate power. You have the civil service, separate powers. Yeah. Separation of powers is what we practice. And this Englishman who sit on our parliament illegally, that is corruption. Attempting to interfere with the independence of the judiciary. Same thing he did with the Dayton Campbell matter. You remember when he came out and told the policeman that them should go and find the two, justices of the peace and question them, and the police duly obliged. And the same thing he might try with the courts. What is this all about? Why is he so nervous? He's nervous because I think he has a fair idea as to what the court may decide. And if the court rules against the Integrity Commission, he will end up with egg on his face, and it would be a huge embarrassment for him and a huge political boost for wholeness. And I do believe, my friends, that this is perhaps what is playing on his mind. What you're looking at here is a drowning man. He's drowning, and there is something going on, and I hope that we will find out soon what is going on in that rice camp. That man is acting increasingly desperate. Something is going on. I don't know if they run a poll and then find out that them deeply underwater, but something is happening, and he is acting out his desperation in this way, and it's only a matter of time before him open him out and make a dreadful mistake. Anyway, folks, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, for sharing, liking, subscribing, and leaving your comments in the comments section. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and walk good.